Good evening, distinguished guests, friends, colleagues, and students. Pax vobis, shalom. Peace be with you. La paz esté con ustedes. Welcome to St. Thomas University and to this historic commemoration, Nostra Aetate at 60, celebrating the legacy of Catholic-Jewish relations in America. Tonight, St. Thomas University, its School of Theology and Ministry, its Interfaith Leadership Institute, together with the Archdiocese of Miami and the American Jewish Committee, gathered not only to remember a document, but to celebrate a commemoration, a transformation, 60 years of dialogue, respect, and friendship between Catholics and Jews that continue to illuminate our path toward unity and peace. I am Father Rafael Capó. I'm the Vice President for Mission and Ministry here at St. Thomas University, Papal Missionary of Mercy and Dean of the Amaturo School of Theology and Ministry, and it is my honor to welcome each of you to this sacred space of encounter. Your presence tonight, scholars, students, diplomats, and community leaders, is a sign of the very friendship Nostra Aetate called for 60 years ago, that we might recognize in one another the image of the same Creator and the call to the same hope. So as we begin this evening, it is my pleasure to present our distinguished guests tonight, and I kindly ask that you hold your applause until the end of the introductions. We have His Eminence, Cardinal Christophe Pierre, Apostolic Nuncio to the United States of America, His Excellency Archbishop Thomas Wensky, Archbishop of Miami, Rabbi Mario Roisman, Senior Rabbi of Beth Torah Beni Rock Campus, Rebecca Cohen, Program and Research Specialist in the Secretariat for Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs at the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops in D.C. Brian Hertz, Interim Director at AJC Access Global. Our two young adult panelists, Lila Schertman and Jessica Gallegos. And I'd like to acknowledge the team who has helped in the planning of tonight's event. Brian Siegel, Director of the AJC Miami and Broward Regional Offices. Mike Teichberg, Deputy Director of the Miami and Broward AJC. Michael Winograd, Assistant Director of the Miami and Broward AJC. We have Father Pat O'Neill, Past President of St. Thomas University, joining us tonight. And I would be remiss not to mention and thank our supporting sponsor, the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, and in a special way, Josh Sales, and also extend gratitude towards our community partners who are present today, the Rabbinical Association of Miami-Dade, Fuente Latina, and Mosaic Miami. While United States Senator Ashley Moody could not join us this evening, we're honored to have her senior advisor, Ray Anthony, represent her, and we also welcome in a very special way Mrs. Ayelet Black, the Deputy Consul General of Israel in Miami. Finally, I'd like to welcome and thank President David A. Armstrong, J.D., and the members of his cabinet who have joined us this evening for their support. To all of you, thank you for being part of this celebration of faith, friendship, and hope. Give them a round of applause. To open our celebration, I have the honor of inviting to the podium our President, David A. Armstrong, J.D., now in his 8th year of leadership at St. Thomas University. President Armstrong has guided this institution with bold vision and deep faith. Under his leadership, STU has achieved 7 consecutive years of record enrollment, expanded its reach through innovative partnerships, and strengthened its mission as a Catholic university committed to forming ethical leaders for our world. He is nationally recognized, speaking on the future of higher education, law, and campus life, but above all, He is a man of faith who believes that education rooted in that faith and respect is the surest path toward unity and peace. So please join me in welcoming President David A. Armstrong, JD.
Thank you, Father Capot. Good evening, friends. It's an honor to welcome you here to St. Thomas University for this historic celebration of Nostra Aetate at 60. We have a lot of wonderful people here. I do want to thank my cabinet and our faculty that are here. You can kind of just raise your hand. How about our faculty? Let's give them a round of applause. And along with the Archbishop as being my boss, I have one of my trustees here, Victor Mendelson. Raise your hand there, Victor. We want to thank him for being here. Of course, we want to express our gratitude to the Archdiocese of Miami, the American Jewish Committee, and all partners for joining in this spirit of friendship and faith. 60 years ago, the church chose dialogue over division, friendship over fear. That legacy lives on tonight as we celebrate the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate. St. Thomas University's mission is clear. We are an archdiocesan Catholic university with rich cultural and international diversity, committed to the academic and professional success of its students who go on to become ethical leaders in the global community. We are proud here at St. Thomas University as a Catholic university that forms ethical leaders who build bridges of understanding in a divided world. I always say the greatest compliment I can give or receive is that I don't just talk the talk, but that we walk the walk. The AJC walks the walk. And at St. Thomas University, with our Institute for Interfaith Leadership, we also walk the walk in bringing people together. And tonight is a great example of that with the Archdiocese of Miami. So big STU gratitude for Cardinal Pierre, who also performed Mass today for us. That was wonderful. Archbishop Wensky, Rabbi Reisman, AJC, the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, and all community partners. A special thanks to Father Capot and the School of Theology and Ministry for organizing this evening. Let's give them a round of applause. And special thanks for United States Senator Ashley Moody, who sent us a wonderful recognition. We are so grateful for her recognition of St. Thomas University. And this was presented by her senior advisor, Mr. Ray Anthony. I don't know if Mr. Anthony made it. Let's give him a big round of applause, and Senator Moody. The last sentence in that recognition is wonderful. It says, on behalf of the state of Florida and the United States Senate, I commend your dedication to creating a safer, freer, and more prosperous Florida through interfaith initiatives like this one. And it's so important because we know that people of faith are under attack, not only in this country, but in this world. And if we do not stick together, we will fail. We have to be together. And we know that if we believe in God and fight for faith, that we will make this world a better place. So tonight reminds us that faith and friendship still have the power to heal and unite. Together, let's continue the mission of Nostra Aetate for generations to come. God bless you all, and as we say here, go Bobcats.
To lead us in a moment of prayer as we enter into what will become a time together, a sacred space, I invite up Rabbi Myra Roisman, Senior Rabbi of Beth Torah Benny Rock Campus, and Archbishop Thomas Wensky, Archbishop of Miami, to lead us in prayer.
Let's do it historically. I go first. Actually, I will go first, and I will go very short because this is just a reflection. I was told to pick a psalm. There are 150 psalms, and I picked one of the shortest because I can read minds, and you want short. So if you go to a Jewish event, you will hear the following song, Ine matov umanaim shevet achim gam yachad. It's wonderful for brothers and sisters to be together. What people don't know, it was written by King David 3,000 years ago, and it sounds the following. Ine matov umanaim shevet achim gam yachad, a song of ascents of David. Behold, how good and how pleasant it's for brothers to dwell together in unity. It's like precious oil upon the head, running down upon the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. It's like the dew of Hermon, falling upon the mountains of Zion, for God commanded the blessing of life forevermore. Amen.
In that same vein, we continue prayer. God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God of Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. God who calls us to justice, mercy, and peace. We gather today in gratitude and in hope. 6 years ago, the winds of understanding stirred within the walls of the church. And Nostra Aetate was born, a declaration that turned hearts toward one another, lifting the burden of centuries and opening a path toward healing. We thank you, our eternal God, for the journey Jews and Catholics have taken together since that day. A journey from estrangement to encounter, from suspicion to solidarity, from the wounds of the past to the seeds of a shared future. May this gathering honor those who have the courage to speak truth and to seek peace. May it inspire us to deepen our friendship, to learn from one another, to stand together against hatred and injustice in all forms. Bless our words, our prayers, and our presence here today. May we walk forward in the spirit of shalom and agape, the spirit of peace and love, bearing witness to your image in every human being. And so let us say, Amen.
As we continue, we turn our attention to the heart of this celebration, Nostra Aetate, the declaration on the relation of the Church with non-Christian religions issued by the Second Vatican Council in 1965. And this short but revolutionary document reshaped the Church's relationship with Judaism and all faiths. It reminded the world that all people share a common origin, a divine calling, and a destiny rooted in love and understanding. Let us now look to the screen for a brief video that captures the history, the spirit, and the hope born from Nostra Aetate 60 years ago.
As anti-Semitism resurges around the world and prejudice still divides communities, we look back to history for lessons of reconciliation and courage. For centuries, tragic misunderstandings and false teachings contributed to hostility between Christians and Jews. Misinterpretations of Scripture and the painful charge of collective guilt led to persecution, discrimination, and suffering for generations of Jews in Christian Europe. And yet, even amid that long history of division, moments of grace and humanity emerged. Christians who risked everything to protect their Jewish neighbors, and voices within both faiths who longed for truth and healing. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, conscience and faith moved leaders to seek a new path. Pope John XXIII, profoundly affected by his meeting with French Jewish historian Jules Isaac, placed Catholic-Jewish relations on the agenda of the Second Vatican Council. He entrusted Cardinal Augustin Bea with leading that work of renewal. At the same time, Jewish leaders and scholars, including the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, entered into dialogue with courage and vision. The American Jewish Committee played an important role in fostering these encounters, encouraging mutual understanding and trust. Their shared efforts bore historic fruit on October 28, 1965, with the promulgation of Nostra Aetate, the declaration on the relation of the Church to non-Christian religions. Nostra Aetate forever transformed Catholic teaching about Jews and Judaism. It rejected the false notion of collective guilt, affirmed God's eternal covenant with the Jewish people, condemned anti-Semitism in all its forms, and recognized the spiritual bond linking Christians and Jews. In the 60 years since, Catholics and Jews have journeyed together from painful separation to genuine friendship. The Archdiocese of Miami, St. Thomas University, and the American Jewish Committee join today in celebrating this ongoing story of renewal. Dialogue has become partnership. Theological reflection has become action. Around the world, Catholic and Jewish leaders now stand together against anti-Semitism, religious persecution, and all forms of hatred. The Church, guided by the spirit of Nostra Aetate, has deepened its commitment to encounter and fraternity. And the Jewish community continues to open its heart in dialogue, seeking together the healing of memory and the building of peace. New initiatives, from interfaith education to social action, continue to strengthen our shared mission. Together, we uphold the dignity of every human person, created in the image of God. While challenges remain, the legacy of Nostra Aetate calls us to persevere, to continue building bridges of respect, friendship, and hope. As we celebrate 60 years of Nostra Aetate, we give thanks for this remarkable journey, for courage, humility, and faith that turned division into dialogue and estrangement into embrace. May the partnership between the Catholic Church and the Jewish people continue to bear fruit for generations to come, in Miami, across our nation, and throughout the world. Together, we honor the past, celebrate the present, and build a future of peace.
It is now my joy to introduce Rabbi Mario Roisman, who will share his reflections on the ongoing legacy of Nostra Aetate. Rabbi was born in Buenos Aires, has dedicated his life to education, dialogue, and the building of bridges between faiths. He's a graduate of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in Jewish philosophy and education. He was ordained at the Latin American Rabbinical Seminary in Buenos Aires, and later earned a master's in education. In 2015, he received an honorary doctorate from the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, recognizing his more than 25 years of leadership in the conservative movement. So please join me in welcoming a respected teacher, a bridge builder, and dear friend, Rabbi Mario Roisman.
Thank you, Father. Your Eminence, Your Excellency, dear friends. It's an extraordinary privilege to be here today, a rabbi beside a cardinal and an archbishop, and all of you commemorating 60 years of Nostra Aetate. 60 years may sound like a long time in human life, but in the life of our two traditions, after almost 2 millennia of misunderstanding, accusation, and pain, 60 years in the story of humanity is only a moment. I belong to a generation born 17 years after the Jews and the entire world came to grasp the full magnitude of the Shoah, the Holocaust. At that time, wounds were still raw and trust seemed impossible. I grew up in a world where the other was a warning, not an invitation. A confession, and that's a perfect place for confessions. When I was a little boy, walking past the church in my neighborhood, I felt fear. No one ever told me to be afraid, but I was. Only later did I understand why. At home, I heard stories from Europe, from the winters of 39 and 40, when Christmas would come and Jewish families like mine would know that the priest's sermon might carry words of hatred. So they stay inside. They locked their doors and waited for the night to pass. That memory, that inherited fear, crossed oceans and generations. It shaped how we saw the world and how the world saw us. And that is why Nostra Aetate, proclaimed in 1965, was not just a theological declaration, it was an earthquake of the spirit. It said for the first time in history that the Jewish people are not rejected, not cursed, not replaced, but eternally loved by God. It rejected the teaching of contempt and opened the possibility of friendship. After all these years of studying Nostra Aetate, I have learned that dialogue does not mean erasing differences. It means refusing to let difference become weapons. We have memory, especially the memory of pain, is not meant to divide us forever, but to teach us the sacred duty of protecting human dignity together. I'm so grateful to St. Thomas University, to the American Jewish Committee, to the Archbishop for this encounter, because it embodies the idea that Nostra Aetate is not a text to be studied, it's a path to be walked. It's much more than a document, it's an invitation. An invitation to open our hearts beyond the borders of our tradition. 60 years ago, the church opened a door that had been closed for centuries. And though that door came new possibilities, the possibility of friendship, of mutual respect, of shared holiness. That door can still remain only half open unless we dare to walk through it. That's why I want to ask you something very personal. Did you have a Nostra Aetate moment in your life? A Nostra Aetate moment is that sacred instant when something shifts inside you, when you stop seeing the other as the other, and being able to see the face of God in someone who prays differently, loves differently, and believes differently. It's the moment when fear turns into curiosity, when walls turn to bridges, and theology becomes friendship. A Nostra Aetate moment is not just about interfaith dialogue, it's about discovering that our faith becomes deeper, truer, when it opens to the faith of another. It's the moment when you realize that to remain fully yourself, you don't need the other to disappear. You don't need the other to be hidden. You allow him to exist. A Nostra Aetate moment is when a Catholic says, without Judaism, there will be no Jesus, there will be no Mary, the apostles, there will be no church. A Nostra Aetate moment is when a Jew can declare, without Christianity, without Catholic Church, hundreds of millions of people will never have known the 10 Commandments given to Moses at Mount Sinai. And the world will never have seen so many hospitals, schools, the teaching of values, millions acts of compassion and care born from that faith. If you want to know whether Nostra Aetate bore fruit, I am one of that fruits. I'm here because that document did not stay on a Vatican shelf. It entered the hearts of people who decided to live it. One of them was Monsignor Justo Laguna. He was the bishop of the greater Buenos Aires area, who became one of my dearest friends. He was a man of humility, sanctity, and holiness, a man who understood that truth is not a competition. He taught me by example a message I carry forever. For me to be right, you don't have to be wrong. Watching him live his faith in the shadow of the cross, I discovered a new respect for the Catholic faith. Through him, I understood that holiness is not the absence of struggle, it's the courage to love even when history has given us every reason to fear. Those are not ideas you find in official documents. They are born in the daily work of coexistence, in shared project, in laughters, in tears, in the sacred act of listening. That is what Nostra Aetate was meant to create. Not only theological reconciliation, but human friendships. Together with the bishop, we wrote a book. We had a TV show. He introduced me to the last 3 popes. Together we spoke in universities, in seminaries, in Jewish schools, in Catholic schools. We stood side by side, a rabbi and a bishop, telling young people that faith should never be a wall, but a bridge. That theology should not divide souls, but elevate them. And that the image of God is not confined to our own reflection, but revealed in the face of the other. That was my Nostra Aetate moment. A moment when words became life, when dialogue became friendship, when faith became courage. And I can tell you, when you live that kind of moment, you change forever. It becomes breath, it becomes prayer, it becomes heart. Because in that moment, something greater than both of us came alive. The presence of God lives between us when we truly meet each other. So tonight, as we celebrate the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, I don't just want us to honor a milestone, I will have to remind us that the world needs us to convert Nostra Aetate, our time, in Nostra Vita, our lives. We must transform that declaration from a document of our time into a way of life, because the world still needs Nostra Aetate. Our children still need it. Our society, fractured, fearful, divided, still need voices of courage that dare to cross the old lines. So I ask again, not as a rabbi, but as a fellow believer, did you have your Nostra Aetate moment? And if not, will you dare to look for it? Dear friends, anniversaries are not museums. We are not here to admire history, but to continue it. Hatred and religious intolerance are still around. Anti-Semitism is growing in shocking ways, and old prejudice sometimes appear in new forms. Catholics are being slaughtered as we speak in Middle East. That's why this partnership isn't just decoration, it's essential. The world needs to see Jews and Catholics standing together, not because we agree on every doctrine, but because we agree that every human being is sacred. The world needs to hear our shared voice say, faith without respect is idolatry, and faith without compassion is empty noise. Nostra Aetate was the beginning of a new grammar of faith, a way of speaking to each other with reverence instead of rivalry, but it remains a fragile miracle. Each generation must choose again to protect it, to deepen it, and to live it. For me, this journey has been transformative. I could not have done a fraction of what I have done in my 39 years in the rabbinate if I have not learned to love my own Judaism more deeply by seeing others live their Christianity so beautifully. So I'm here tonight, humble and grateful. And I say, tonight's strength isn't that we speak together, it's that we truly listen to one another. Tonight's strength isn't that we agree, it's that we dare to walk side by side after centuries of mistrust. Let me conclude with one of my Nostra Aetate moments. On November 2nd, 2011, my friend Bishop Laguna called me. He said in a quiet voice that this call may be a farewell call. Why farewell, I asked. Tomorrow I have heart surgery and I could die, he replied. I said, if that's so risky, why take the chance? He said, if I don't, I will die anyway. He spoke then of our friendship, of the bond we share. The next day, he went into surgery and he passed away. When I went to visit his family, his sister and his right hand, who is now a bishop, Monsignor Oliveira, a spiritual son to him, they told me he had left a gift for me. This is the gift, the stole he wore when he officiated, and the sucheto, the skull cap, the kippa he had so many times wear. He entrusted them to me. Without Nostra Aetate, this would not have happened. Without the courage of that extraordinary Catholic, this moment would not exist. Without Nostra Aetate, my life would have been much different. We Jews have blessing for almost everything, you know. One of the most sacred is the blessing to thank God for this very moment, for this connection, for this memory. So with your permission, I will say it in Hebrew, covering my head with the bishop's kippah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Bless are you, God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this moment. Thank you so much.
Rabbi, you have gifted us a Nostra Aetate moment. Absolutely. And we will treasure your heartfelt words as a Nostra Aetate moment. It is my honor to now invite to the stage His Eminence Cardinal Christophe Pierre, who as Apostolic Nuncio to the United States represents Pope Leo XIV among us. I invite him to share his reflection on the impact of Nostra Aetate. Cardinal Pierre was born in France, and he has dedicated his life to the service of the Church and to the work of dialogue, diplomacy, and peace. He was ordained a priest in 1970 and later entered the Holy See's diplomatic service, and he has served the Church in countries around the world, including New Zealand, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Cuba, Haiti, Mexico. And in 2016, Pope Francis appointed him Apostolic Nuncio to the United States, where he has worked tirelessly to strengthen the bonds of communion between the Holy See and the Church in America, to foster understanding across faiths and cultures. Pope Francis created him a cardinal in 2023, and he continues to be a voice of pastoral wisdom, humility, and bridge building. Please join me in welcoming His Eminence, Cardinal Christophe Pierre.
So, dear friends, good evening. It is indeed a privilege for me, as the personal representative of Pope Leo XIV to the United States, to celebrate with you the legacy of Catholic-Jewish relations on the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate. On the Holy Father's behalf, I extend warm greetings and encouragement to all of you here. I would like to say a few words about the historical importance of Nostra Aetate and subsequent documents. Actually, I may repeat a few things, but it shows that we agree. When the Council Fathers approved Nostra Aetate, they opened a new chapter in the Church's understanding of her relationship with the Jewish people. In section 4 of the document, the Council declared, I quote, "The Church, mindful of the patrimony she shares with the Jews and moved not by political reasons, but by the gospel spiritual love, decries hatred, persecutions, displays of anti-Semitism directed against Jews at any time and by anyone. These words were revolutionary in their time. Nostra Aetate was a brief document, but his impact has been immense. It was the seed from which a tree of dialogue, study, and friendship has grown. Subsequent church documents have furthered this growth. In 1974, the Holy See emphasized, I quote, mutual understanding and collaboration between Catholic and Jewish scholars. In 1982, Pope John Paul II stated that the faith and religious life of the Jewish people as they are professed and live even today can help us to better understand certain aspects of the life of the Church. In 2015, the Church reaffirmed her obligation to view evangelization to Jews in a different manner from that to people of other religions and worldviews, acknowledging that the Jewish people are bearers of God's word. Thanks to a shared commitment, Jewish-Catholic relations have matured from hesitant beginnings into a real and fruitful friendship. Today, in gatherings like this one, we continue to move from dialogue to genuine encounter, from encounter to shared responsibility. And I think this word is important, shared responsibility. And from shared responsibility to joint witness in the world. The present global context. On the global scene, our commitment to mutual respect and peace is being tested by painful realities. The war in Gaza has brought immense suffering and left deep wounds that will take time to heal. Jewish communities have meanwhile faced a troubling rise in anti-Semitism. In this context, I want to reaffirm, on behalf of the Holy Father, the Church's condemnation of anti-Semitism in all its forms. Prejudice and hatred have no place in the human family. The Catholic Church stands in solidarity with our Jewish brothers and sisters in rejecting those evils and in working for societies where dignity and security are assured for all. At the same time, as Pope Leo has reminded the international community, fidelity to human dignity requires that the pursuit of justice must never lose sight of humanity itself. Every human life, Israeli and Palestinian alike, is precious in the eyes of God. The Holy Father has consistently called for a path marked for justice, dialogue, and restraint, so that peace, not vengeance, might have the final word. In this regard, we have been heartened by the recent peace agreement, which can become a step toward ending violence and opening new paths of dialogue. The road ahead will not be easy, we know that, but this moment invites renewed commitment to a just and lasting peace. This hope resonates deeply with the vision we share, rooted in Scripture, the day foretold by Isaiah when one nation shall not raise the sword against another, nor shall they train for war again. Isaiah 2:4. That prophetic vision continues to inspire our dialogue and our common witness in the world. It reminds us that peace is not only possible, it is a divine promise toward which Jews and Christians are called to work together with faith. Now, as a closing words, I would like to just pronounce a shared celebration and mission. This evening is a moment Actually, you spoke about this Nostra Aetate moment. This evening is a moment to reflect with gratitude on the journey, and this is actually a journey, we know that began 60 years ago with Nostra Aetate, and to rejoice in the friendship and understanding that have grown between Catholic and Jewish people since this historic moment. As we honor the progress that has been made, we can look with hope to the future. May this celebration be a living sign of the partnership that Nostra Aetate envisioned, Jews and Christians working together as co-workers in the unfolding of God's plan for the world. Tonight, may we open our mutual understanding, strengthen our shared commitments, and give witness to the truth that authentic faith never divides, but always seeks to build bridges. Thank you, and may God bless this evening and all who take part in it. Thank you.
We're truly grateful to both Rabbi and the Cardinal for their inspiring reflections. And their words remind us that dialogue is not just a historical achievement, but a living mission. And to lead us into the next part of our evening, we turn to the new generation, the next generation, the young voices carrying forward the vision of Nostra Aetate. So I invite to the stage Isabel Sigli, Director of Ministry Programs at St. Thomas University. She's a doctoral candidate in theology and leadership, to introduce the Religion for the Common Good initiative.
Good evening. This evening, I'm pleased to introduce the Religion for the Common Good initiative. It was a Catholic-Jewish young adult dialogue aimed at strengthening understanding and unity. Last year, I was invited to participate in this joint initiative of the American Jewish Committee and the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, which sought to bring together a diverse cohort of Catholic and Jewish young adults in their 20s and 30s to explore how, in a time of division and loneliness, religion can be a source of positivity and unity. Through virtual meetings, two cohorts of young adults met to share the impact of their faith and religious tradition of their lives. So we are pleased this evening to have the creators of the program, who have mentored us over this past year, as well as two of my fellow young adults, I invite them up to come for a conversation about this initiative, and I'll briefly introduce each of them. We have Brian Hertz, who has a background in psychology and passion for cross-cultural connection. As interim director of AJC Access Global, Brian leads leadership development and advocacy education for a global network of Jewish young professionals, building relationships across borders and sectors to prepare the next generation for complex global challenges. And I'm happy to introduce him as one of the creators of the Religion for Good Catholic-Jewish Dialogue Initiative. We're also pleased to welcome Rebecca Cohen. She is the Program and Research Specialist in the Secretariat for Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs at the USCCB. She assists the bishops of the United States with their continuing outreach to the American Jewish community through standing dialogues and mutual action. With Brian, she worked to bring the idea of religion for good to life. We're also joined by Lila Chertman. She is a physician, cantoral soloist, and recently ordained as a rabbi in July of 2025. She was born and raised in Miami and active in the Jewish community through AJC and other various organizations for many years, and is passionate about interfaith dialogue and understanding. And last but not least, we have Ms. Jessica Gallegos, who serves as the Director of Religious Education at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Pocatello, Idaho. Her leadership and dedication extend beyond the local community, as she has worked with the USCCB on various national and international projects. I invite you to please welcome our lovely panelists who have traveled to be with us.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for having us, and thank you to St. Thomas University. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to share the stage with all of you. We're incredibly proud of Religion for Good. It started, actually, as a result, in many ways, of Nostra Aetate. Nostra Aetate laid the groundwork and created all of these wonderful leaders who decided it was time to continue investing and making sure that this message of unity, this desire for dialogue, continued. I actually participated in a program, the Emerging Leaders Cohort for IJKIC, the International Jewish Committee on Interreligious Consultations. And through that program, I connected with Catholic young leaders and Jewish young leaders from around the world. And it was really my Nostra Aetate moment. The first time that I had broken beyond the bubble of my community in many ways. And it was eye-opening. I saw all this opportunity to connect with people who were different than me, to engage in honest conversation. And when I came home to the United States, I said, I need to do more of that here. And so that's how I actually connected with Rebecca and said, we've got to do something here.
And I was incredibly grateful to hear from Brian. Personally, I had also been a participant in the Emerging Leaders Program. So IJKIC partners with the Vatican's Commission for Religious Relations with the Jews. And so through that, I also was able to attend several iterations of that prior to Brian going. I guess that shows that I'm older.
We're all young leaders here. All of us.
Yes, so so I absolutely, so I had learned the value of such a program and knew that if we could make this work, if we could get something on a national level, we could also impact the lives of Jews and Catholics across the United States. I think at that point, our idea was maybe, in connection with the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, we'd find a way of getting together and doing this. But I think some things kind of pushed it a little quicker.
Yeah. So we both work for big institutions. We know it can take time to make things happen, and we're young leaders. We're learning as we go. And so we said, we'll plan something for the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate. It'll be really exciting. We'll have young leaders together. We'll learn. It'll be wonderful. And then October 7th, 2023 happened. And it was an incredibly challenging time in the Jewish community. There was a deep sense of loneliness, of fear, of frustration. It was scary, honestly. And my Catholic partners, some of the friends I made at the IJKIC conference and who I've made through my work with AJC, were some of the first to reach out and check in. And in that moment, we felt this pressure of there are so many divisions, there is so much fear, we've got to do something now. And so Rebecca and her team were ready and up to the challenge.
Yes, so we certainly understood the urgency at that moment of getting something on the books, and working within an institution such as the U.S. Conference of Bishops or AJC presents its own issues in trying to do anything quickly. So everyone has their budget set, everyone has their schedule set, and yet somehow we were able to work within the boundaries to find a way of a productive program that really began to build relationships among young people across the United States. And so we tried some new techniques, I guess you could say, in terms of using Zoom. I know we all got very tired of Zoom during the pandemic, but it offered an opportunity for us to at least begin this journey, a journey that we are continuing.
And so with that, Religion for Good was born. That was, when was that?
So that was back in March of 24.
And we've now had 2 virtual cohorts of Religion for Good. We're incredibly proud of the work that we've done. We've brought together probably north of 50 leaders from around the country virtually to connect with one another. And we've discussed text together, we've had challenging conversations, and really the idea of this program was we had leaders who invested in us and told us that there is a way to do this kind of meaningful dialogue, and the belief that I hold, and I think that we hold together, is that the way to make an impact to be a leader is look to the leaders above you, learn from them, and to be a leader yourself, bring new people with you and help them learn the way that you've operated and the way that you can do more. And the hope is that programs like that lead to programs like this and more in the future. And so we're incredibly lucky to be joined today by two of the leaders on the stage with us who are leaders who have risen from the program that we created and are now here on the stage with us.
Yes, so we'd like to thank both Jessica and Lila for being here with us today. It was actually nice. It was the first time we met in person. So we've done quite some work online with both of them attending different cohorts, but now we get to meet in person. And we look forward to doing so in the future. But right now, so both of you, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves, how you got involved in this, your experience with dialogue?
I'm Jessica Gallegos. I am the Director of Religious Education in Pocatello, Idaho. So yes, where the potatoes are. That's the first thing everybody always says. But what I do is I help with religious education, making sure kids get their sacraments, making sure that our youth know who Jesus is. So for me, being able to do this has been really great. For dialogue, I was actually part of cohort called Journeying Together with the USCCB, which we got people from all different cultural backgrounds together, and we were able to have dialogue in that way, get to know each other. We had an amazing experience in Chicago in 2020. So that's been what I've been super excited about. I've been able to learn more about everybody and the Jewish faith, which has been amazing, because let me just tell you, it's not that big in Pocatello, Idaho, so being able to look around and getting to know everybody has been an amazing time.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Lila Chirtman, and I think it would go back to even before I was born. My parents are from Peru, which is a Catholic country, so they grew up in that environment. My mother went to an evangelical school. She was the only Jew in the school and one of maybe 2 Jewish families in the city that they lived. So when I was born here, I grew up with this family feeling that people who have different religions than you are the same as you are. There's not that much difference. You can believe different things, but you can have very similar values, and you can be friends, and you can attend meals together and go to family functions, and that's how I grew up. And in Miami, I went to a Jewish school for most of my schooling, and then in university, I encountered people of different religions, and I really tried to take that mindset that I had from home through that. One of the first AJC events that I actually attended was in 2015 at St. Thomas University. It was the 50th anniversary of Nostra. That was my introduction to AJC and my introduction to this interfaith work that is so incredibly important in today's day and age. And going even beyond Catholic and Jewish relations, a few times in my life I've done other interfaith work, I guess. So in 2020, right before the pandemic shut down everything, I went with a synagogue from Palm Beach to Guatemala, and it was a mission essentially for Jews to meet the evangelical leaders of that country and thank them for their support in moving the embassy to Jerusalem. So we went to one of the biggest evangelical churches, I think probably in the world. It was called Casa de Dios. And just being there and taking a tour of that place and seeing how many people of faith they touch, and then having dinner together with all these evangelical pastors and leaders, I think that was one of my Nostra Aetate moments. Just to see that there is a lot of love and respect between people who have, different beliefs. So thank you to AJC for giving us this opportunity with Religion for Good, because it was amazing to be with people our age, doing different things in their life, working in different careers, but taking time out of their day to just sit together online for an hour or two and learn about each other's faiths, learn where we may agree, where we may disagree, learning how to ask tough questions, and being okay being a little bit uncomfortable, but being friendly and being open.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Lila. I think you both spoke so nicely about how is it that you ended up here, right? And it wasn't necessarily something that was going to happen. It was something that happened because, first of all, because other people made a choice to create those opportunities, and second, because you chose to take the step and get involved. And it's so actually wonderful, Lila, that 10 years ago you were here for the 50th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, and now 10 years later you're here on the stage, and so great that we're at a university and so many young people can hear about this meaningful work, and maybe 10 years someone here will be on the stage as well, maybe even less than 10 years. Lila, maybe going back to you, I'm curious if you could share with the audience, what does it mean to you to carry forward the legacy of Nostra Aetate?
I think, like the Rabbi Roisman said, that we need to also have personal moments in our lives of Nostra Aetate and Nostra Vita, that it can't just be coming to events like this and learning about the history and being proud of the history, but carrying it forward. So what does it mean, let's say, in my daily life? Actually, about maybe 10 days ago, we just celebrated a Jewish holiday called Sukkot, which is where we commemorate that the Jews were in the desert for 40 years, and we were living in these temporary huts, temporary structures. And I was sitting in the synagogue and reading the portion, which was, I think, Deuteronomy 14 or so, and there was a sentence that said that you should celebrate this holiday with everyone. So it was with your daughter, with your son, with your servant, with the stranger, with the convert, with the widow. And that sentence really impacted me, because I felt sometimes in today's day and age, we celebrate holidays and we celebrate them like just within, but we can, and it says apparently in the Bible there, that we should celebrate these holidays with other people. And so that I try to do that. So for example, on Passover, we always try to invite at least one person that is not Jewish to come and just learn about what it is. Or on Sukkot, we had a little, like a party on Saturday night of Sukkot, and I invited a bunch of friends. And 3 of my friends were Catholic. They had never been in a sukkah. They didn't know what it was, but they just came to a party, and it was fun, and we had a good time. So I think that we can do things institutionally, but we can also do things personally, and we can learn and take the guidance from the institutions, but it's up to us to do things, one-on-one. And maybe I'll just give one last example, because I know we're talking a lot about Catholic-Jewish relations, but Nostra Aetate is also specifically about other religions, right? And so through AJC a couple years ago, I met a gentleman by the name of Mohammed al-Samawi, who was essentially saved from Yemen by Jews that he met online on Facebook. And he became a peace activist. He lives now in DC, but he was living in Miami when I met him. And speaking of that holiday of Sukkot, several years ago when he lived here, he came also for Sukkot. But he has an organization in DC called the Abraham House, where there are people of 4 different faiths that are rooming together for the year, and they have activities once or twice a month from the different faiths. No one's trying to convert each other. We're just trying to say, hey, we're also human, and we can be friends and live, in peace. So that's one specific way that someone that I personally know has really taken it in such a magnificent way forward.
Thank you, Lila, for sharing all of those avenues of connection. And, all of us here today, I'm sure there's many people we have not met before in this room, so we do have that opportunity, particularly afterwards, to mingle a little, make connections. But Jessica, turning to you right now, how would you say your experience has been in terms of the Religion for Good program? What might be some of the reasons for getting involved in something like that?
So for me, I would say one of the reasons I got involved was because a good friend named Paul was like, Jessica, you should probably do this. And
Paul is also at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. He's been my partner in crime in this, I must say.
he has been. And when Paul tells me, Jessica, you should probably join this, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to say no. I would love to learn more. I love to have dialogue with people. I love to be able to learn about different religions. And it happens to be that in Pocatello, Idaho, the dominant religion is LDS, Latter-day Saints. So I'd like to tell everybody I'm the minority of the minority. I happen to be Catholic in a very dominant Mormon area, but also Catholic and a woman. So it's always a great time. So I always like to be able to go and listen and learn more just so that I can do this. So as I'm on Zoom with some of the people I know on the Catholic side, and then nobody I know on the Jewish side, which was great because I ended up making friends with people that I would have never met otherwise. And being able to hear about how they live their faith and the way that we had very interesting conversations, let me just say. Like, they were amazing. I got to learn about the differences just within each other's religion. So it was, for me, eye-opening that so many different opinions could happen. But that also happens in the Catholic Church, trust me. But also, it was our, I think, second meeting that we were talking about October 7th. And that really opened my eyes to be able to hear what's going on over there and how it's affecting our brothers and sisters. And also being able to have a conversation when one of our participants said, yeah, I'm just about to get ready to go there. And I'm like, how's your family? Like, my first concern was like, is your family okay? How are things going with this? So it made it open for me to be able to ask the questions and make sure other people were okay just as much, because at the end of the day, we are people, and God created us all in what he wanted for us. So we got to be there for each other. It's not something we should be wanting to divide. It's something we should be trying to lift up and build together.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you both. One of the more interesting and kind of affirming pieces of feedback we got after the first cohort of Religion for Good, and maybe even more so after the second, was actually that people found themselves more connected to their own faith, more connected to their own community and tradition after participating in interreligious dialogue. I'm curious, and I'm going off script, so I hope you'll entertain me. But I'm curious to hear, how has your experience with interreligious dialogue, how did your experience with Religion for Good connect you back to your own tradition?
So I've always been of the opinion that in order to be strong in your faith, you don't have to think that any other faith is wrong. They're never mutually exclusive. So I think with Religion for Good, learning more about Catholicism, it really brought me back to this moment of thinking, wow, Judaism must be pretty incredible that we, in some way or form, inspired Catholicism to come forth, Christianity to come forth. Must be something there that is that we can never forget, that we have to hold on to, that is incredible. So that was one thing that really stuck with me. And I do think that we can become stronger in our own faiths when we learn of other people that are strong in their faiths. I think that there never has to be competition, like what was stated earlier in one of the speeches. And, sometimes we think that, or religion is accused of causing a lot of terrible things in the world to happen. And I was reading a book recently by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs called The Great Partnership, and it's about science and religion and how he says that they never need to be in conflict with each other. They can be in parallel. Science can help explain phenomena, but only religion can give us meaning and help us find wonder. And I do think that within all of our faiths, strengthening each other, right? If I can make a Catholic be more Catholic, that's amazing. That is God's work. Or if a Catholic can make me be more Jewish and more faithful in my faith, I think that is part of God's work. Because religion, we don't need less religion, we need better religion. We need better religious people. And programs like this that let us talk about our faith really help us to do that in a way that's not pushing anything down anybody's throat. We're just sitting and listening. And that quality of listening is something that we really got from that cohort.
Can you reiterate the question? I'm sorry. I was listening to her so much, intently, that I was
she spoke so beautifully. How has your experience with interreligious dialogue deepened your own connection to your faith and tradition?
For me, it's because they're going to start asking the questions of, what does this mean? What do you mean you do this on this day? Well, that's a holy day? It became I needed to know specifically what it means for us in order to explain it to somebody else. So it made me have to dig deeper and looking at it. And we were talking about, Nostra Aetate and how, did I ever read it before? Sorry if I'm jumping ahead. But I honestly am going to tell you, I did not read it until yesterday on the plane. But growing up Catholic, I knew about it. I knew what this was. I knew that this wasn't something that we are supposed to be having dialogue with everyone. It's not something that we're just supposed to shun somebody away and say, no, because you're not Catholic, you can't be with us. It's not how it works. So growing up, I knew about this document. I knew what it said, but I had never read it. And so this was one of those ones where we had to really get into it. And I, again, like I said, I'm going to tell you, I read it yesterday. But it just reaffirmed and made me look at it in a different way of this is what we also still need till this day. And this is something that we need to be able to have people read more about, because we do want everybody to know that they are welcomed, that they are loved, and that they are cared for.
Thank you both. I will say, the four of us up here on the stage at this point, we are all part of the generation that lives in the post-Nostra Aetate world. We grew up in it. As Catholics, what we would say is it has, to some extent, already been received into the church. It is part of everyday knowledge, even if we don't know where it comes from. So this project has been about finding a way forward for that next generation. What does it mean for us to have dialogue? And so I think I would just ask you one last question. Both of you, actually.
Okay.
What excites you about going forward?
So tonight is my youth night with my high schoolers, and I told them, I was like, we're not having youth night tonight because I'm in Miami. And their first thought is, Miss Jessica's going on vacation. And I'm like, I'm not going on vacation. I'm actually going to do this. And I started explaining it to my youth, and I started saying, hey, having dialogue within different religions is a must in our world. And they actually started saying, well, Ms. Jessica, I have some friends that are Jewish, and do you think it'd be okay if I could go to one of their events? And I'm like, absolutely. We're supposed to do this. We want to do this. We want to be able to learn more and be able to support everybody around us. So going forward with this, for me, is we need to teach the younger generations that it's okay to have that inner dialogue. It's okay to invite somebody to Mass, or it's okay for us to go visit a synagogue and learn. This is what we are asked to do. And I think going forward, to have more dialogues such as this and this event, such as Religion for Good, is going to help us and help our younger generations learn that this is what we should do and that this isn't a question, that this is just what we do.
I'm looking forward to one specific thing, which is that in December, we're going to be having our first in-person retreat of Religion for Good in Chicago. And we're going to be doing exactly what you said. So we're going to be attending a synagogue service. We're going to be attending a mass service. And we're going to be learning from each other because, like we said, Zoom, I mean, a lot of us have had our share of Zoom, and it can get frustrating at times. And I remember at some point emailing, I think, the group and saying, hey, are we going to ever do something in person? Can we just meet one day? We don't have to have a formal program, maybe just to, I don't know, meet. But I'm very excited for that. And then the synagogue that I sing at for the High Holidays, Temple Emmanuel in Miami Beach, we're in the planning stages. But in April, God willing, we're going to be taking a group to Israel, which is specifically geared to be half Jews and half Christians. And that's the point of the trip. And we're going to be going to holy sites for both faiths. And it's an allies trip. And I think that that's something that can happen, through many religions, just to go and spend magical moments together. When you're on a trip anywhere, I mean, that's a very special place to go for both religions, of course, but when you go on a trip anywhere, there's memories that you make, and you have these shared moments that you can look back to many, many years later. So those are some things that I'm looking forward to in the immediate future.
Thank you to Jessica and to Lila, who have now done multiple cohorts. And every cohort, we bring in new young people and some people who have already been involved. And so at this stage, you are experienced in interreligious dialogue, as I'm sure everyone can tell from the conversation today. We're incredibly excited to continue doing this work. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And 60 years after Nostra, Aetate, we see that its spirit, it's alive. Alive in our conversations, in our classrooms, and in the hearts of young people who believe in friendships across faiths. So thank you to our panelists and partners from AJC and the USCCB for reminding us that dialogue is not just something we study, it's something we live. Your work gives us hope, true hope, and renews our call to keep building bridges of understanding and peace. I now invite Judge Sales, Vice President of External Affairs for the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, to share some words on how this call continues to shape our shared mission.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. It's really inspiring to stand up here and to look at a full room for such an important event, an anniversary. And one of the panelists said, that October 7th and the ensuing last couple of years have been truly lonely for the Jewish community. And I want to thank you guys, because it's events like this that give me personally hope, and I think give a lot of people in the Jewish community hope. I want to take 2 minutes to share one more example about how Nostra Aetate helps enable collaboration between the Catholic and Jewish communities, and I specifically want to cite a very recent example here in Miami that I think impacts all of us. After the heinous shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis in August, and our deepest condolences, it's a really, really scary time in the world that we're living in, the Greater Miami Jewish Federation reached out to the superintendent of schools at the Archdiocese. Throughout our long history as Jews, we've lived under the constant threat of violence and vandalism. Over the years, we've developed strong security initiatives to fortify our institutions and protect our people. And the Greater Miami Jewish Federation happens to have an Office of Community Security put in place not only to keep our organization safe, but to keep all 150 Jewish community organizations in Miami-Dade County safe. And in reaching out to the Archdiocese, our only goal was to find opportunities to share resources and best security practices free of charge to keep children and worshipers safe. We know that people who hate one group of people don't only hate one group of people. And we know that where Catholics are safe to practice Catholicism freely, Jews are safe to practice Judaism freely too. And where Jews are safe to practice, Catholics are safe to practice as well. So in these challenging times, I think we've learned over the last couple hours, if we didn't already know, that our communities need each other. And I hope that, I see that we have the wisdom to come together out of necessity. And I hope we have the grace to continue to walk the road as friends. And thank you again for this very special evening.
And now we welcome Brian Siegel, Director of the Miami and Broward Regional Office of the AJC.
Well, everyone, what an extraordinary evening this has been. As we mark 60 years since Nostra Aetate, this document we've been hearing about that transformed relations between the Catholic Church and the Jewish people. And we also mark a celebration of friendship, understanding, and shared humanity. We, in the Jewish community, like to say this is such an important partnership for us because together, between the Jewish community and the Catholic community, we make up over 1 billion people. So AJC has been engaged in Catholic-Jewish relations for decades, and these long-standing relationships have allowed our two communities to overcome historic barriers in the spirit of dialogue and friendship. For AJC, which has long advocated for this historic transformation, the Declaration was one of the most important moments of the 20th century, a true turning point in interreligious relations. As we've heard from our speakers, in the 6 decades since, we've witnessed remarkable progress. Popes visiting synagogues, rabbis welcome to the Vatican, and partnerships between Jewish and Catholic leaders.
Thank you. Partnerships between Jewish and Catholic leaders. There we go. To advance human dignity and moral responsibility. But what is perhaps most important is what has happened on the local level, right here in our own communities, where friendships, shared service, and study have become part of the fabric of our lives together. Thank you to our young leaders who demonstrated this so vividly for us tonight. Here in Miami, we have forged strong connections with many meetings and events with Archbishop Thomas Winsky, who has been such a good friend, and Archdiocese, the entire Archdiocese, and priests from all around our community. As we've heard, 10 years ago, we stood here together at St. Thomas University to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, and tonight it is deeply meaningful for us at AJC to partner in this milestone event as we renew that same spirit of gratitude and hope, while also recommitting ourselves to the work that still lies ahead. We are honored to have partnered with St. Thomas University, the Archdiocese of Miami, and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops in bringing this evening to life. Our thanks as well go to our co-sponsors, the Greater Miami Jewish Federation and the Jewish Community Relations Council, and our community partners, Fuente Latina, Mosaic Miami, and the Rabbinical Association of Miami. Your partnership is what makes interfaith work in South Florida so powerful and so lasting, and truly a model for the rest of the country. Tonight's program has reminded us that Nostra Aetate is not just a historical document, it is a living call. It challenges us in every generation to see the divine image in one another, to stand up together against anti-Semitism, against hatred in all its forms, and to model what mutual understanding truly looks like. Let us continue to build bridges between our faith communities, our institutions, and our people.
let us teach our children that respect and curiosity are the foundations of peace. And let us work together as partners, as neighbors, and yes, as friends, to ensure that the next 60 years are marked by even deeper connection, understanding, and shared action for a better world. On behalf of AJC, thank you for being part of this historic moment and for walking this path with us in our time, Nostra Aetate, and for all time. And it is now my great honor to invite up a true friend and leader in interfaith partnership, Archbishop Thomas Wensky. I'm not sure that I would even know what celebrating Passover would be like if we weren't celebrating together as we have so many times. Archbishop Wensky, please share your concluding remarks before a final benediction with Cardinal Pierre.
I get the old one back. I think what's important to achieve through these dialogues is that we can recognize each other and what we say about one another. In other words, if a Catholic is speaking about Judaism, what the goal should be is that the Jew that hears this Catholic speaking about Judaism recognizes the Judaism that the Catholic is speaking about. And the same way that if a Jew is speaking about Catholicism, the goal should be that the Catholic who hears him recognizes, yes, that this is Catholicism. Because when we fail in that, that's where we get all those misunderstandings, and that's where we can trip over each other and fall into prejudices and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think these dialogues are very important. They're not about, as been mentioned several times already, not about splitting the differences, because we want to respect what the other person believes and feels. But the purpose is to hear each other so that when we speak about one another, we recognize ourselves and what is being said by the other. And that, if we do that, then we have made great progress. And we become witnesses to the world that, yes, people can live together in peace, harmony, and unity. Thank you.
Before we ask Cardinal Pierre to give us the final benediction, I would like to call forward Ray Anthony, the senior advisor to U.S. Senator Ashley Moody, to join us for a recognition that the senator wants to share with us.
Thank you so much to everyone. It was really inspiring to hear so many young people connecting and exchanging their experiences on their shared faith. I have the incredible honor of representing our United States Senator Ashley Moody, who was recently appointed to the position held by our current Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And she was so impressed by everything happening here and what was going to transpire, especially at this institution, because we could not think of a place more fitting than Miami, than St. Thomas University to hold discussions like this. A university that was founded by exiles forced from home, expelled from Cuba because of who they are, their faith, their religion, with Rabbi Roisman, who so many times at his congregation has opened its doors to our community to talk about sometimes very difficult topics like this one. So on behalf of the people of Florida, it is with great admiration that I recognize St. Thomas University in collaboration with AJC and the Archdiocese of Miami for commemorating the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate. This commemoration is made all the more meaningful by the presence of distinguished faith leaders and scholars, including His Eminence Cardinal Pierre, Apostolic Nuncio to the U.S., Archbishop Thomas Wensky of Miami, and Rabbi Roisman. Their participation alongside representatives of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and the AJC reflects the ongoing commitment to nurturing understanding and unity in Florida. I commend your dedication to creating a safer, freer, and more prosperous Florida through interfaith initiatives like this one. With best wishes for a meaningful and inspiring commemoration, our United States Senator Ashley Moody. Thank you.
I could just take a moment of presidential privilege here. With the wonderful comments from everyone, our Cardinal, Your Eminence, from our Rabbi, Reisman, Nostra, Aetate moment you talked about. And I now can explain how we started our Institute for Interfaith Leadership. My first year here as president in 2018, I went to the American Jewish Committee where they were celebrating Victor Mendelsohn, our trustees, father, Larry Mendelsohn, who just passed away, a Titan of South Florida who passed away. And all the comments that night talking about the rise of anti-Semitism, in my mind I'm thinking, what can we do at St. Thomas University? And at my previous institutions, Notre Dame College in Cleveland, we started the Abrahamic Center, where we're bringing the monotheistic faiths together. And at Thomas More, where I was president, and other archdiocesan college, we started the Institute for Religious Liberty, which we'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary of that in November, and I'll be traveling to Cincinnati for that in Northern Kentucky. But after hearing those comments that night is the reason why we started the STU Institute for Interfaith Leadership. And so I now see that it comes from Nostra Aetate, and thank you, Rabbi, for your wonderful comments. Thank you all.
My friends, what a grace-filled evening this has been. A celebration not just of history, but of hope. Tonight we have remembered Nostra Aetate as more than a document. It is a living witness that faith and friendship can change the world. So as we leave this place, may the spirit of dialogue, respect, and peace that has filled this room continue to inspire our hearts and our communities. And now I invite you to please stand and join me in welcoming back His Eminence Cardinal Christophe Pierre, who will offer our final benediction.
As we close this evening of gratitude and friendship, we lift our hearts to the Lord, who is the source of peace and the author of all understanding. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. May this peace, the shalom that heals and unites, take root ever more deeply in our hearts, in our church, in our synagogues, and in our world. May the spirit of Nostra Aetate continue to guide us, to see in one another the image of God, to speak truth with love, and to walk together as children of the same Creator, builders of hope and witnesses of reconciliation. And may Almighty God bless you today and always. Amen.
Friends, thank you for sharing this evening of faith and friendship with us. And may tonight's encounter renew in us the courage to keep building bridges of understanding. Please join us in the plaza for a joyful reception graciously hosted by the Greater Miami Jewish Federation and JCRC. Good evening, and peace be with you.